Hey guys, it's Gary with Runes of Life, and I just wanted to bring you some quick thoughts, a quick review on the first episode of She-Hulk: Attorney at Law from Disney Plus. Overall, it was okay. It wasn't super great. It wasn't super bad. It just seemed kind of average. And I think a lot of that is that this is her origin episode. And as a longtime fan, this is something I always have trouble with when I go to the first superhero movie where it's an origin story. I know that story. So I kind of want to just get past that first movie, get past that first episode, and get into something that opens up the character's potential more, rather than seeing, okay, this is how it happened step by step, and now we can get to something new and exciting. So that kind of, for me, just made it kind of predictable, I guess I'd say. Um, there were a few things that just didn't really flow too well, or not really flow. It was just more of a, why is this in here? It doesn't quite make sense. They changed a few things with her origin, so let's start at the top. Yes, there's a car accident just like in the comics, but in the comic books, I believe Bruce Banner gives her a transfusion of her blood because she is about to die. In this, just some of his blood gets on her and causes her to transform, and some of Bruce's blood on her. And that just seems more comic booky than, okay, I had a bunch of blood put in me because I had to, and all this blood in me now Jennifer is a She-Hulk, rather than, oh, I got some blood on me, maybe there's a little cut and it quickly turns her into She-Hulk. That just seemed a little bit more comic booky than the comic book itself, to put it kind of oddly. Um, so I kind of wish there'd been more of a transfusion, or maybe, okay, it got on her, but the transformation wasn't that fast. It got into her blood, and over time it started getting stronger and stronger, but it was a very sudden transformation when it got on her, and that just didn't quite make sense to me. Another thing is her character seems, and I'm not super familiar with She-Hulk, but I always picture Jennifer Walters, her alter ego, as more shy and less confident than She-Hulk. In the TV series, it's the same character. She's confident as Jennifer Walters, she's confident as She-Hulk, and there's not that sort of switch back and forth. And I like having that back and forth, that she's more confident in this one form, because to me that gives her a deeper character. Talks about her self-esteem issues, accepting herself. That does not seem to be present here. Some of the fights didn't quite make sense to me. There's a point where Hulk and She-Hulk fight because they're having an argument, and at the same time, it's like, did you guys really think punching right now was the best thing? This would have been better played out as a verbal argument, and it was to a degree, but why did it escalate to an actual physical fight? It just seemed like it was in there because, hey, we got Hulk, we got She-Hulk, let's put them together and make them punch each other, or throw each other around. So I did not quite, that fight just seemed out of place. The fight at the end of the courtroom against Titania, I think her name is, and that one was super brief and one-sided, but for a character that, I don't feel like She-Hulk has a big rogues gallery as it is. So to take Titania, who is a known character from the comics, and just have her go down so easily and so quickly, I feel like that was rushed, probably because they had to get this origin story in under 45 minutes, and they had to get it done and have a good ending where there's a fight. But it just, hopefully that character will come back and there'll be more to her. The other thing I didn't really like was there's a gag at the beginning, and they even give its own end credit scene about Jennifer Walters questioning Bruce Banner if is Captain America, did he die a virgin, and this and that, and her whole theory that he died a virgin because he didn't have time for anything with going from World War II to Avengers fights and this and that. And while this is in character, because She-Hulk is more, I don't know if the word's progressive in her sex politics, I at the same time, it's not really the type of thing that I like to sit down and watch. It's one of the reasons that while I appreciate the character in the comic books, I don't generally follow her escapades in the comic book, because it's just not something that resonates with me. You may not have the same problem, but for me, especially with the MCU, I want movies that I can watch with, a family type thing. So having that in there, where it added so little to the story, except for a joke, a one-off joke, it just seemed it wasn't necessary and it didn't add anything. And all it did is, if I wanted to watch this with kids or whatever, it would just add an awkward conversation for me that, yeah, you got to have conversations about that stuff with your kids, but you don't have to have it for every single show you watch. So I did not particularly like that. As far as what I want in the future, well, let me first give it a rating. I'd probably rate it, for all those reasons, probably a 6.5. It was just kind of average, below average, just not really as well put together. I think it has potential to get back up there in later episodes to a much higher rating, the future episodes. What I'm hoping, what I'm fearing for what's coming next is this. I'm hoping that they lean into the courtroom side of it, because that is part of what makes She-Hulk unique. And having the courtroom side, especially, I think in some of the trailers I mentioned, it might be superhero courtroom, because we got Daredevil, who happens to be in the background, and he does law, but one of the things that makes She-Hulk unique in the comics is she does superhuman law. And I'd like to see how that plays out, because it's very different in the comics from regular law. Some of the things, like in the comic books, in the Marvel comic book series, they allow comic books made in that universe as court documents, because they're like legal documents. They're things that happened, things of history. So little things like that are things that I want to see. I want to see her breaking the fourth wall, because that's something she did long before Deadpool. I don't want to see it pushed into, you can have her... I don't want to see too much, sex stuff. Yes, you're going to have that as part of the character, but you don't have to show it or put it up front as much. It's kind of like with Tony Stark, right? He one of the big stories in the comic books was that he was an alcoholic. We don't really see that in the Iron Man movies, and we still have a great Iron Man. Yes, we see in Iron Man 2 he gets drunk and uses a suit, but there's a big difference between I got drunk at a party and did something stupid and used the Iron Man suit, and the whole comic book, what was it, Demon in the Bottle, I think, where he is a full-blown alcoholic, and the repercussions that went through the years. So there are ways to include that stuff without making it the biggest thing about the character, and that's kind of my fear, that they're going to make that such a big thing about the character that it's going to be a bit distracting. But overall, while I didn't like the first episode, I think there is potential for this to be a good series, especially if they lean into the superhero law aspect. So we'll see what happens. All right, let me know what you think about the series and where you think it might head. Thanks for listening.